Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. And we've got the answers to all of your questions and more coming up in just a moment. Right now, I just want to review some of the things that we sent out today, and then I will answer some of your questions before we go, and then some of them are going to be in this as we go through it. So one thing I want to encourage everybody to do is fill out this National Restaurant Association COVID-19 survey. It does two things. They give us the information that's gleaned from New Mexico, and then it also goes to our legislators, our Congress folks, and it's going to help them make decisions about what they do with our relief fund. And we are working very diligently to get more relief from the federal government that's not in the form of the PPP loan, or that extends the PPP loan weeks or even months so that we can use it better in our restaurant situation. Because again, the PPP loan works for other industries, but not our industry so much. So that's what we're doing right now. Please fill out this survey, even if you've closed your restaurant or are thinking about closing your restaurant. This is where we're getting that information to send out and let people know that our industry is suffering in more ways than one. And I think the permanent closure is what is really on at least the press's mind right now. And you'll see here this reopening guidance. This will take you directly to the page that we're going to be visiting today. But before we do that, I would like to do a little commercial here. And I'm going to have Dion Bauer, our membership director, talk to you just a minute about membership in the Restaurant Association. We know some of you are members, you've been members for years, and some of you are not members, and we'd love to have you as a member. We understand now is not the time to ask for money, but she has a way to do this. So Dion, if you would share your screen.
Well, let's see. There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So we thank you, Carol, for giving me just a moment. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we need as much support as we can, but we're basically here to support you first. So if you like what we're doing and you want to join us, there is a new membership status. We're doing a provisional membership where you can join the Restaurant Association. You'll have your first dues payment deferred for 6 months. So we will not bill you for 6 months. And for our current members, you may have gotten an invoice. We are going ahead and invoicing you. You will be getting statements as well, but we will not suspend any memberships that go unpaid. And we want to make sure that you have some time. So you can pay what you can. Let us know and we'll put you on any kind of plan, or just let us know anyway how you're doing. And if you have any questions, my email is there on the bottom and my phone number as well.
And in the background, you can see our newest,
that's my little assistant here.
Yes, our newest assistant, and that is Lucy. Lucy's been doing a great job for us. Thanks, Dion. Really appreciate the.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, can you guys see my screen?
I can see the one that says take survey.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer some questions before we go on to this. So, is outdoor seating counting towards occupancy? And we don't believe it is. And we have heard from the city of Albuquerque that it is not. We have heard from a few fire marshals that it is not. If you think about it, your occupancy level is your fire marshal distinguishes how many people can get out of your restaurant safely in a safe amount of time. And that really puts what your occupancy level is. So just wanted you to know that your occupancy level should not count towards your outdoor seating, and it does not count towards your employees as well. So this is only for your customers and customer seating. that's what your occupancy level goes to. And that's what, and we have not heard from the governor yet. We think she's going to do a 50% level, but it's possible she'll do a 25% level to start. I don't think that's what she's going to do. We haven't heard that. We have heard the 50% level. But I just wanted you to be aware that that's only for your customers indoors. If you do outdoor seating, you still have to meet the 6-foot distancing. So don't forget about that. And someone asked if about the contact tracing. And just so you know, we are in contact with the governor's office. We have been told that her general counsel is going to pull the requirement to have contact tracing, make it a best practice, and make it voluntary. So just understand that you have some customers out there that are concerned about this, and they may want, for some reason, to know if they have contacted COVID within your environment. And if that's the case, then take their name and number and tell them you will let them know if that is the case. So that's what we've been doing in the last 24 hours. It's like everything is going pretty fast here. And then our disposable plates required. And I'm gonna go into that. In one version, in the first version, they were required. In the second version, which is what we're on right now, they are not required. And so that's the short answer, and there's a little bit more to that, but we can go over that when I go over that piece in here in this presentation. And if you guys would, are there any leads on plastic spray bottles? If you would chat that to everyone, that would be very helpful, because Wally Manoli needs to know. You don't have to have disposable menus, but you have to sanitize your menus in between each person's use. And I would say, if you don't have disposable menus, at least have your menus on a way that people can get them on your website or something else, so that they don't have to touch things that other people have touched. So you guys can keep chatting. And I'm going to have Dion, if you would, watch the chat for me. And if there are things in the middle that need answering, let me know. And then we'll save the rest of the chat to the end.
Okay, great. I'll keep a track of the questions.
So I have just checked on that view. Here's our New Mexico restaurant promise. This page is under the COVID-19, excuse me.
Yep, that's actually not showing yet. We've still got the alert.
Say that again.
That's not showing yet. We've still got the alert.
Okay. I thought I changed the menu on this to reflect the promise page, but anyway, my internet was going in and out today, so that may not have got saved. So what I want you guys to see is that we have this page. It's New Mexico Restaurant Promise. We will be doing some, not only social media, but we've had some folks offer billboards and also radio ads in order for us to get the word out that restaurants are ready. As you may know, customers are going to be hesitant to come into our restaurants because they're fearful. And so we have to make them as comfortable as possible. And to do that, we're going to have to do some COVID safe practices.
Carol, we're not seeing that screen.
Thank you. So I'll go back just a second, just so you know how to get here. Right now, it will be under the COVID-19. It'll be the Restaurant Promise page, but right now you can get to it by going to Get Resources. Again, this is the New Mexico Restaurant Promise. And we will be doing ads and other things, radio ads and Facebook ads and things just to make people comfortable that restaurants are doing all they can to make them safe, and our employees as well. So this is a kind of a door hanger that you can use. It's our promise to you your promise to us as a customer. You can download and print this for your front door. And so basically it says we will continue to be a leader in safe sanitation practices. Our staff will wear face coverings. All staff will pass a health check. All indoor and outdoor seating options will comply with the appropriate social distancing guidelines. And the reason we wrote it that way and not just with the 6-foot distancing is because those distancing guidelines we believe will change over time. And so we wanted this to be evergreen. Hand sanitizers or hand washing stations will be available upon entry and exit. And just so you know, I mean, a hand sanitizer station can be just a big pump of sanitizer on a table as you enter the restaurant. And if you need us to change this document in some way or use it in some other way, you're welcome to have it and change it. We will clean and sanitize common areas regularly. All tables and chairs will be cleaned and sanitized after every use. Place settings, utensils, menus, condiments will either be single use or will be cleaned and sanitized after every use. My thought is that you would not put condiments on the table and have to clean those after each use or after each person group sits at the table, that you would actually take them off the table, bring them to the table only if somebody asks for them. We will post the New Mexico Restaurant Promise at our entrances so everyone understands the steps we must take to keep our community safe. And then your promise to us, and this is to the customers, you will wear a face mask when entering and exiting the building or moving about the building. You do not need to wear a face mask when seated at your table. If you have been exposed to COVID-19 recently or have symptoms of COVID-19, please help us keep everyone safe by using our contactless delivery or carry-out options. So basically, don't come in our restaurant. If you have underlying health conditions or are otherwise concerned, please feel free to use our contactless delivery or takeout options. And if you have any questions about the restaurant promise, please ask a manager and they'll be happy to assist you. So this is just one piece of this page that is that has everything on it. The other piece you need to really know about is the Altogether New Mexico document. And this is the document from the state. This is what they are requiring of you. We didn't put everything on our promise page just because we couldn't get everything on the promise page, but that should make customers feel comfortable about entering your business. And the rest of this is what is required of you. On page 9, it's what's required of all employers, and that is required of restaurants as well. Again, arranging your workplace to provide a 6-foot distance. Close common areas where personnel are likely to congregate. So this is something that was put together a long time ago, and I just want you to be aware of it, that this is your break room. If you have a break room and you can't get 6-foot distancing when 2 people are in there, you probably do need to close it. I'm just saying that is one of the required things for all employers. Provide all meetings remotely. Ensure employees have face coverings or masks and wear them in the workplace at all times when in the presence of others, except when eating, drinking, exercise, or otherwise advised by a healthcare provider. Train all employees on daily cleaning and disinfecting protocol. Make hand wash and sanitizer and other hygiene support available to employees. And note that where the use of gloves is not a substitute for frequent hand washing, and we already know that because we're in the restaurant business. Screen employees, so this is one that is in our best practices as well, to screen employees before they enter the workplace each day. Send employees home who are experiencing the following COVID symptoms related and obtain free testing through the Department of Health. So fever, cough, shortness of breath, headache, etc. So that's required. And two more things: prohibit employees with known close contact with a person who is lab confirmed to have COVID to return to work until authorized by the Department of Health. Minimize non-essential travel for the CDC guidelines. And I'm going to go over how we're going to deal with this, because right now we've got a couple of federal relief pieces that that we need to talk about that will help you, because you're going to be able to give people sick leave. You're not going to get money back for that for a while, but you can give them sick leave. So under their best practices is develop a communication plan to provide a forum of answering employees' questions, appoint a COVID safe practice leader or team leader to enact safe practices, review employee leave policies, because we do have the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Again, I will review that with you, and consider assigning vulnerable workers duties that minimize their contact. You can also, if you have vulnerable workers who would be better off staying on unemployment, you can help them continue to get unemployment they have to provide a doctor's note to the Department of Workforce Solutions in order to stay on unemployment for the time being. And you may have some folks like that in your, that may be immune compromised or older, or have some of the risks. So you want to be aware that they can continue to get unemployment, and you don't have to expose them to anything in your environment. Retain a daily log of at least 4 weeks. So again, this is in best practices for all employers, but it is not, it was one of the things that was required of restaurants. It is going to be in the best practices for restaurants as well. The governor's office is going to change that and put that under best practices. So again, this is going to be voluntary. It's not going to be mandatory.
On that point, Carol, can I jump in for a sec?
Yeah.
I know there's a question on the chat on social media using as a check-in of contact tracing. We don't know exactly what's going to be spelled out in the best practices, but I will say social media check-in is definitely something that's being talked about. So we don't have details on that yet, but when all those best practices are known to us, we'll get them out.
Great. Follow all HVAC preventive maintenance as required by the manufacturer, and when possible, consult HVAC engineer. And then there's additional resources on this as well. You can get this, you just saw me click into it here. Unfortunately, the hyperlinks aren't working on that page, but you can also just Google Altogether New Mexico and find that document as well. So the other thing I want to go over is these other resources that we have. So many of you were on the call when WEX showed us their operations manual for going back in a COVID safe environment. And many of you have asked us for that document. We're happy to send it along to you. Just email us at communication@nmrestaurants.org, and we will get that to you. But as you'll see here, this is a daily employee at guest temperature log. This is if they were going to require our guests to be temped. They are not, thank you. But this can be your daily employee log. Continuing on, a deep cleaning guide. We really do expect you to have a heightened sanitation process, and whatever that is for you, if that's every 2 hours somebody is wiping down the surfaces, if that's making sure that all your tables and chairs, let's at least do that, because we do know that people are touching chairs and things. So at least do your tables and chairs, and then you can also heighten your cleaning. and just know that a lot of these things came from WEX, and we really appreciate their developing all of this and then sharing it with the New Mexico restaurants. You can also have an employee health statement. So this is, I understand as an employee, my health and the health of those around me are a main priority in order to maintain the safety of employers and customers. I agree to the safety procedures and health, and these are the safety procedures. Again, take this, use it, change it. Mask and hand washing guides, you know, here's how to wear a mask, how to wash your hands. This came from the World Health Organization. Sanitizing time charts so that you know that you're getting to all of those critical areas. And these are the critical areas: door handles, stall doors, rail handles, sinks, faucets, mirrors. And this is just to make sure that you're getting to all of those critical areas in the time that you have them scheduled. One thing I had somebody put together, because a legislator actually asked me about this, and I think that you all will really appreciate having this policy put together for you. So these are policy suggestions. You don't have to have this for the state. You don't have to have this for the Restaurant Association. Obviously, the one thing is that what's on here is is OSHA record keeping. So if you have to deal with OSHA, there is this on here. But what this does is it basically tells you, what do I do if one of my employees comes down with COVID? How do I deal with that? And this also, if you have managers, you're not on premise and you have managers somewhere, it tells them what to do. What do you do if an employee tests positive? What do you do if a customer tests positive? All of these things are really important for you to know right now, and to have some kind of a program put together that will help you make those decisions quickly. So there's that. Where are we? Oh, so two things. We have a reopening checklist from the City of Albuquerque here. The City of Albuquerque's Environment Department sent that to us last week. It's actually, I think, basically the New Mexico Environment Department's list, except it's just got CABQ all over it. So it's just redone with the City of Albuquerque. So you can see here, and this is a good thing, if you've been shut down and you haven't been doing any kind of takeout or delivery or anything else, this is telling you what you need to do. And actually, so if you had a fire or something, this is what the reinspection would look like. This is a reinspection checklist, basically. You know, is electricity available throughout your establishment? Is the sewer fully functional? Food equipment, is it ready to go? Are your refrigerators holding units at 41 degrees or below, and etc. So making sure that all of these things are working, because the Environment Department is going to be back to work very soon. And right now, I believe they're doing virtual inspections. So just be ready for that, and know that they are going to be looking for these things. But it's also a checklist you and your managers can go through each building and say, are we doing this? Is this done? You know, check, check, check. And then they've got a lot of hyperlinks for places you can go to get guidance on other things. State remedies for, yes.
Yeah, we didn't go to the restaurant page in the altogether part.
Oh, sorry.
So you were at the general businesses, but you may want to just point out the restaurant specific pieces.
There we go. Going back to this, so page 9 is the general businesses, and then restaurants are here. So again, they say adhere to the required COVID safe practices for all employers on page 9, adhere to the COVID safe practices for retail establishments on page 11. This is page 12. Discontinue service stations that require customers to congregate in certain areas or use common utensils, dispensers, including salad bars, buffets, beverages, and coffee stations. So on this, what I need you to know is that, so if you have a place where people go to get their silverware and they're going to be touching something that somebody else might touch, don't do that.
Carol, we have a specific question about buffets that's come up quite a bit. Can they keep a buffet if they have the employee or server serving the food?
It is my understanding that you can do that.
But you would want to observe the distance requirements as well. I mean, for one-on-one.
Well, you need
have
the
6 people
sneeze,
to
you've got to have a sneeze guard anyway on anything like that. And then, yes, you would want to keep the distance and have this, you know, possibly the same employee serving from that. If I were you, I wouldn't have something, a food service station out in front of people. Right now, I think people are going to be very sensitive to everything that's going on. And so I would try to put that somewhere where it's not right out in front of the customers.
Hey, Carol,
yeah.
may I support that? For the end of the governors, because we serve a complimentary buffet breakfast for our guests each day, we've decided that we're going to set up our buffet in a private space and have our guests sit down and then order from the list, and then we go get the food from the buffet and take it to them for the reasons you're describing, that even though, because then you're like 6 feet away, stretching to reach the plate, even if the server doesn't. So just to put that out there, that's what we're deciding to do.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so comply with the state limitations on bar and counter seating and non-seated service. And if otherwise permitted, ensure a 6 foot or more distance is maintained between customers. So from my understanding, that if you have a bar, as long as people are 6 foot away and the bartender is 6 foot away, that you can still have people seating at the bar. If somebody else thinks differently, I haven't heard anything besides this. So I think as long as you're getting that 6 foot distance, I think you're okay.
I think on that point, we might have to wait and see what the governor's order states if she's specific about that. So I wouldn't take that to the bank just yet.
Comply with, let's see, discontinue gaming areas and other such areas of the restaurant where customers may congregate for extended periods of time and or surfaces that are repeatedly touched and cannot be cleaned and disinfected between each use. Employees that handle items used or provided by customers must properly wash their hands or change gloves before serving another customer. So that is part of our promise, is that we will not deal with something, credit card, whatever. Once you've swiped that person's credit card and returned it to them, you need to go wash your hands again or sanitize them. And as much as possible, use touchless credit card systems, but I know that most of you aren't set up for that, so do the best you can. Discontinue allowing pets, excluding service animals, inside the establishment, onto patios, into stores or other such areas. Now this is going to be a bit of a problem because I don't think it's well known. And I'm not sure, some of you who were on that committee might be able to tell me why this got in there. I mean, obviously pets are not allowed inside an establishment anyway, and I don't know why they chose to make this a requirement for restaurants as well. Allison, any thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't recall a lot of discussion around that. I think that was put in there because a lot of folks, if you've got a pet with you, you're on the patio, you might have someone wanting to go pet your pet. And so basically it was a way to get us to get those distractions, or, people kind of tend to gravitate toward the dog, that kind of thing. So I think that's why that was put in, but maybe Matt or Jorge, if you guys are on the line, might actually, or Wayne, I'm not sure if Wayne's on, if you guys remember anything more specific on that point. But that's kind of my guess as to why, but I don't remember there being a lot of discussion about that.
Okay.
Allison, this is Jorge. You're correct. We didn't discuss it. It was there on the original document that it was presented to us. And we never got to that point to discuss on details why. And it was around the same time that the cats started having the virus. And I think there were some concerns probably about dogs catching or carrying it on their coat if people would touch them. Yes, but it wasn't discussed very much.
Okay. Thanks very
Yeah.
much.
I think this is probably going to be a temporary thing for those restaurants that do allow pets on patios, but that is the only place you can have a pet in a restaurant, unless of course it's a service animal, not an emotional support animal, but a true service animal.
Right. So the next thing is clean and sanitize reusable items such as menus, condiments, containers left on the table after each use. If items cannot be cleaned and sanitized after each use, offer single-use items. One of the things I want to talk about is the availability of all of your menu items. Right now, there's a major shortage in the U.S. of meat, and it's coming back, but it's not back yet. It may be closer to back by the 1st when we get started. But you do need to be working with your suppliers right now and find out what things you can and cannot get, and maybe start with a menu that's smaller than what you're usually used to. So here's to support contact tracing, retain a log for at least 4 weeks, including name, date, phone, email address. As we said at the beginning, this is not going to be a requirement. This is going to be moved under best practices, and it's going to be a voluntary thing that your customers can do if they so choose, and something that you can do if you so choose. So under the best practices in restaurants is when scheduling staff to cover shifts, consider additional breaks to provide for frequent hand washing, more frequent and longer time frames to sanitize equipment, etc. And of course, people don't have to have a break to wash their hands. As a matter of fact, that's something they're doing on your time. Provide single-use items such as plates, cutlery, and napkins to customers, and do not leave them in common areas or on tables for self-service. So what this is saying, and this is the new language. So we had language before that said that you must use single-use disposable items. That is not the case. You can use, as long as you sanitize between each customer, which we do anyway, you can use plates and silver and those things. But if you are going to provide plastic or paper plates and cutlery and napkins, don't put them in one area and expect your customers to go get them. Hand them to the customers as they order their food, right? So if you're a counter service restaurant and you're used to your customers, then going after they've ordered, going and getting their plates and cutlery, don't do that anymore. Hand them their plates and cutlery and have them take it to their place. Don't leave that out there where one customer can come touch everything.
Carol, I'm sorry. While you're doing this, could you touch on the same thing for beverage dispensers, please? She had said to discontinue use of beverage dispensers. And we had a question about if the dispensers are 6 feet apart, could they still be self-service?
No, I think the problem with the self-service is that somebody might drink out of a glass and then go and self-serve themselves. Yeah, they're Allison. So no, that's got to be, now somebody on your staff is going to have to be getting those drinks and refills, I would say you just have a policy right now that you can't do refills because of that. You know, you'd have to give them a new cup. You'd have to give them a new, you can't take that same cup and put it back in that place. That would contaminate everything. And then install large plexiglass sneeze guards at cash registers whenever possible. Arrange for contactless payment and receipt options to the guest to the greatest extent possible. And screen employees and customers with a no contact thermometer. Again, this is in best practices, so that would be voluntary. I would suggest that you screen your employees. I don't think we want to be screening our customers right now. I think there's some privacy problems with that. So, so to what extent you can, definitely do employees, do not do customers. And here's some additional resources. Again, Serve Safe reopening guidance. So I wanted you to know that we have this free video training for your employees, and it's really good. It's fast, it's good, and you can get to it. You saw where we came from. I believe this is the video right here. So these are the different videos that are available right now. And I believe that Food Handler is available for free right now. So make sure all of your employees go through Food Handler, even if they're not back of the house employees. It is free. And here again, Serve Safe reopening guidance, I would ask them, I mean, just, I was going to say get them all in a room and make them watch this. I guess we can't do that anymore, but send this out to them before they come back to work and ask them to watch it, or watch it in your office one at a time, or however we can get this done. It really is fast. It really is good. It gives them a few extra pointers. I mean, we think that everybody knows all about this disease, how to get it, how to not, you know, how to sanitize, etc. But not everybody's paying as much attention as we are. So you do need to do that with your employees, and we all know that. I think we have gone over everything. And the thing, I went fast, and I did it because I just want you to know that this is available to you. And you can use it anytime. It's got a lot of the things that you need. If you need a resource document that you don't have, talk to us. It's possible that everybody else wants that document as well, and it's something that we can develop. And by the way, I have a cough. I've had a cough since February, and it's not COVID related. So excuse me, I'm embarrassed that I have been coughing this whole time. Can't go outside at all. So let me go ahead and stop there. And Dion, are there any questions that you think we could talk about?
There are quite a few questions.
Okay.
Can you touch on counter service and clarify, not counter service, I apologize, bars, and whether or not guests can sit on a counter? So for example, if a couple goes to a bar, do they need to sit 6 feet apart? Can they sit 6 feet apart, or are we not accepting anybody at the bar top?
At one time, I had heard that they weren't going to allow us to use bar tops, and mostly because, of course, you can get the 6 foot spacing between groups, but you can't necessarily get the 6 foot spacing between that group and the person that's taking the order. And honestly, I don't think we're going to get a 6 foot spacing necessarily between a server taking an order at a table. Obviously, they've got to set the plates down, and they're going to get within that 6 foot spacing. So if anybody has any thoughts on this, I haven't heard anything. I know that bars are not allowed to open just because they were, you know, so many people would be in them. And that's that large group that the governor has not talked about reopening yet. But I haven't heard anything else about bars, and you just saw everything that the governor and her staff have put out. I have not seen anything about bars since we were talking about it ages ago. And go ahead, yeah.
Can I say something on that point? If we look back kind of on the first order that the governor put out when talking about the 50% criteria and telling us that we could not have people standing, we couldn't do that kind of service, we couldn't do bar service. I think we need to see how specific she's going to be in that order. So sorry to be vague, but I really do think the devil's going to be in the details. Once that order comes out, we'll know more at that time.
So
I do know that it was there was during our committee that was brought up about food counter service. I think it was Matt that brought that out. If Matt's on the call, he may want to talk a little bit more about that.
So interesting that you say that there will be more, another additional order. Is that something they're developing now? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm just saying when or not orders. What I'm talking about is the executive order. Whenever the executive order comes forth that says what's allowed and disallowed, that's the part that where we have to be cautious and look to see what that actually says before we can say this will be, because it's not in this COVID safe practices, but each time she amends an order, the Secretary of Health then puts out kind of the details on that.
Okay. So another one we're talking about is the testing requirement. And one of the guidelines said that you need to refer your employees to go get a test. We're wondering if that is required or just the referral itself.
Oh.
And if you're only requiring the questionnaires for the employees as they come in, if those are written, how long do those have to be kept on file? I'm combining a few questions at once, I apologize.
I can only answer one. So I want to take you to a couple of other resources we have, but and let me do that now, just because I think that has to do with this. So I went to the COVID-19 page and I'm scrolling down. One thing you need to remember is that you have to put up this employee rights poster. That has to be up somewhere in your restaurant as soon as you're back in business. And if you're doing takeout and delivery, it needs to be up there right now. And this basically tells your employees that if they 100% qualify for reasons 1 through 3 below, they get a certain amount of money. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I do want you to know that this is a little complicated. It's pretty self-explanatory, but basically it says if your employee has COVID, or they're caring for somebody with COVID, or they are caring for a child whose school is closed, that you have to provide them with sick leave. The sick leave is paid back to you through a tax credit, and it's not just a credit against your taxes, it is the full thing that's paid back to you. So just know that that's available to you, and it's a requirement of you. It's not just that you can use this if you want, you have to use this if you have somebody who has any of those things. And let me show you that, oh shoot. So this is I think this is the guidance document. Oh, slow internet, wait. Yeah, so this is the guidance document that tells you how you have to use that sick leave for your employees. So I know it's a lot to know, but at least the government is paying for it. So I hope that helps you out. And the other thing you want to know is that if your employees are sick, and so not returning to work because of a fear of COVID is not considered good cause. However, if a worker can present documentation from a medical provider that returning to work would be a high risk for severe illness for either the worker or someone they're a caregiver for, that would be caused during the pandemic. So if they're in a risk, 65 and older, people who live in a nursing home, people who are caring for somebody who's 65 or older, have chronic lung disease, serious heart conditions, etc., they can continue to get unemployment. And again, this document is on our website. This comes from the Workforce Development Department. And I just want you guys to know that that is something that for those folks that cannot work because of COVID, it's here. The other things that are on this are very interesting too. So these safe working conditions, this is supposed to be updated every time they update the states, but I believe that the state document is going to replace this one eventually. And so one thing I do want you to see here is that declining suitable work, if people are declining their work because they're making more money on unemployment, that is not legal, and they have to come back to work. They can come back part-time and still get some unemployment. That's explained in here. And then working reduced hours, that's explained so they can work reduced hours and continue to get their benefit. And then this is how you report job offers to the state. So if you've offered somebody a job and they say, no, I don't want to come back because I'm getting more on unemployment, you are supposed to report that to the state through this, and you're supposed to report everybody that you've offered a job back to through this. Okay, keep going, Dion. I don't know if I answered all of that.
I think that you did. The question was, how long would they have to keep that employee questionnaire on file?
Oh, I don't think there's a date certain for that, you know.
Okay. Just like the counter question, we've gotten a few questions about restrooms. Have they addressed any specific restroom procedures? And one commenter even noted that one of the restrooms they've seen, the restaurant had closed the restrooms entirely.
Well, and I think they have closed restrooms during the takeout and delivery stage. But once you reopen again, your restrooms will have to be open. And I think, you know, posting a schedule inside that restroom that says these are the times that we are sanitizing this restroom, and, you know, keep a schedule of that. I don't think you're going to have to follow the customers into the restroom. I know that I did some traveling a couple of weeks ago and obviously had to stop in at a couple of truck stops, and they certainly weren't heightening their sanitization of their restrooms. But I would say that that's something that we want to do, is make sure, you know, and I would keep a log in there so that people can see that you are keeping track and somebody is responsible to keep that restroom clean at a regular basis. But for one thing, you know, people are walking into the restroom, they're using it, and they're washing their hands before they're coming out. So I think people would feel good about that. They're refreshed and clean after they finish. Keep going, Dion.
The plexiglass dividers, if those are put up between booths and tables, does that circumvent the 6-foot rule?
We believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you have two booths next to each other, but you put a plexiglass barrier in between them, that should be sufficient.
Okay, okay. And going back to the washing hands after handling any customer items like credit cards, for example, do they have to wash after each time, or would hand sanitizer be adequate?
Hand sanitizer is adequate.
And is there anything written about having one entrance and one exit?
You know, to the extent that you can do anything to make your customers comfortable, I think that's important. I know people have talked about, you know, how they would manage customers coming in and keeping that 6-foot distance of customers walking out. I think it's like a grocery store aisle. People are going to do that to the best of their abilities too. I don't think there's going to be a requirement on that.
Okay, and but if they're wearing gloves, do they still need to wash their hands after every transaction?
Yes.
Yes, so that you might just want to stop wearing the gloves and switch over to hand sanitizer or hand washing station.
Yeah, you know, and this is an optics piece for customers. Customers think gloves are more sanitary than hands. We know better because we're in the restaurant industry, and we know that washing your hands is the best thing you can do to keep sanitary. It depends on what you want your customers to see. If you want your customers to see people using gloves, just remind your employees that every time they touch somebody else's thing, they have to change their gloves. And I don't think washing gloves is something that we're considering right now, although at the expense. So you don't have to wear gloves, but again, it's the optics of the customer. If you think that they will be more trusting of you if you are wearing gloves, at least for the first little while. From what I understand, talking to my colleagues in other states, is that, you know, even if the governor opened us up at 25% capacity, there's only about 30% of the general public that are comfortable going out right now. And every week we're open, more and more customers are more comfortable doing that. So, you know, whatever we can do in this beginning phase to make them feel comfortable about going out, it's going to help our industry, our entire industry, because if they go to one restaurant and they're not observing some of these things, then the chances of them going out to another restaurant just got less. And so if we can keep those standards up, and plus, you know, we need the governor to be on our side. So we need to keep those standards up and be very careful about what we're doing and the optics of what we're doing. We're going to make these promises to the general public, you know, in some of our ads, and making sure that people are coming back to you. So I just, I beg you to do the right things when people are in your restaurants, because it's going to make the difference of how long it takes people to come back.
Carol, I think the question also said, if your cashiers are wearing gloves, do they wash their hands after every transaction? I think if you change your gloves, I don't know that you need to wash your hands in between changing the gloves. Is that
That's a lot of gloves to go through, though.
Right. So I mean,
I was talking to a supplier the other day, and he said, you know, Carol, we don't have a whole lot of the you know, back of the house gloves, but they have and we finally came up with the term, the lunch lady gloves, right? And we all know what the lunch lady gloves are. They're the very loose cellophane gloves, and they have a lot of those, and they're not quite as expensive. So even if that's what you were doing, again, it's the general public is looking at this and saying, okay, I get it, and I feel like they're taking care of me. Other questions?
I think that we've actually got most of them. Some are helpful suggestions. One gentleman had pointed out that they are posting QR codes on their doors for menus, so that the folks can scan their menu in right away. We also have a few vendors that have put in some plugs during the chat. If you guys want to refer to those, Carol can show you also our vendor resource page. I just got an offer yesterday. In fact, our new member Iceworks is going to offer to sterilize your ice machine upon your reopening for free. So there's a lot of really good stuff out there. Wasserstrom, I think, is on our chat, as is Fast Signs. They've got a lot of help there. So I think the only other question that we missed is how high the plexiglass needs to go, if you're using that as an option. And I think we have a plexiglass supplier on this page as well.
Dion, there was one other question that I thought was important.
Great.
Which is calculating sick pay for servers whose income is dependent on tips.
Thank you, Cindy. I missed that one. So Carol, you are muted, but we're looking for an answer on calculating sick leave for a tipped employee.
I just said, great, Cindy. Give me the one question I can't answer. I think you calculate it with tips in there and you try to get that back from the government, but that's probably not right. So here's the thing, is calculate it at a rate that is what you're doing for your PPP. You know, if it's $15 an hour or $13 an hour, I believe that's correct, but please don't take my word for that. Talk to your payroll company and or your CPA about that, because actually there has been no direction on that. And so that's why I can't answer that question. We have not heard how to calculate that for the sick leave. I would assume it'd be like the PPP though.
Sorry, the HR groups that I've been attending, including Heartland Payroll and Heartland HR, have said that you always calculate it at least at minimum wage, whatever your minimum wage is for your jurisdiction. Because $2.13, $3 is not minimum wage. It is $7.50 for Fed, and then whatever for Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Las Cruces, and the rest of the state. So better to err on that side and do at least minimum wage.
Yeah, at the very least, yeah, I didn't say that, but you are right. I sometimes assume people know these things. Okay, so this is our vendor, it was our classified page. It's vendor help during the crisis, and these are some of the vendors that have stepped up to help our members during this crisis, and are offering discounted rates. They're offering just things that, you know, we've got KOAT, and we got some advertising here. We've got United Healthcare. Heartland is setting up your payroll. If you're doing your payroll yourself, probably not a good idea. Heartland is a great payroll company. Fast Signs, Fast Signs is also doing plexiglass and printed plexiglass, from what I understand. Cisco, of course, has their COVID resources. So do all of our other vendors. I just got some interesting videos that US Foods is doing. I know that Benny Keith is working very hard, as well as Shamrock and Cisco. So, and I have been talking to all of those suppliers this last week just to find out what they have and are they going to be ready for the reopening. Again, folks, there is a shortage of meat, and you need to be aware of that and figure out what menu items you'll be able to open with. I hear there is no shortage of seafood, so you might consider more seafood on your menu, although it's always very expensive, right? And then there's some other offers down here that you might want to be aware of. Anything else, folks?
I thought I saw a question on pony walls. I'm not sure if I understood that question. Let's see, I'm trying to find it. Something about kiosks. Dion, did you see anything?
Yeah,
like that? I think it's probably along the lines of the plexi. Okay, here we go. Food hall with kiosks that have adjoining pony walls. Do we need to put plexiglass between them, or will they need to be 6 feet apart? I'm not sure I understand what that is. So,
If you are on the call still, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
that was a Facebook question.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So Candela, tell them to call us later.
Well, while she's looking for that, we do have another Facebook question. If there's specific guidance for occupancy for outdoor dining without a sit-down seating in like a distanced festival environment. So if you're maybe serving at a park, I'm not exactly sure.
I think you're still going to need to have your six and 6, whatever you're doing. Make sure that your customers are 6 feet apart. That's the best guidance we have on that, I think.
And do we have any indication when the governor might confirm the June 1st date?
She tends to have her press conferences on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm surprised she didn't have one today. So possibly sometime next week. We're not 100% sure. Stay tuned.
So, on that note, you know, everybody keeps asking me, you know, she said, probably we're going to open restaurants. Just so you know, I mean, we've been in talks with the governor and we feel very confident that is the day that she's going to open restaurants. So and basically we've told her that we're moving forward as if that is the day. If there is more guidance that comes out from the governor's office, I'm honestly not expecting any because they've got pretty strict guidance out here already. But if there is more guidance, we will let you all know. Please keep an eye on our daily alerts. And if there's anything that you think we should be doing a Zoom meeting about in the next few days, in the next weeks, please let us know. Right now, my feeling is that you all are going to be focused on doing what you do in your restaurants and getting things back to normal. And I'm thrilled that you're going to be doing that. We're always here as a resource. We've always been here. And we're staying on top of what's going on. So if you need us, don't hesitate to email us. Don't hesitate. You can see here that you can anytime get online and chat with us. And for the most part, during business hours, we are on chat and we will come on and talk to you. And if we're not there, you can always leave us an email with the chat question or the chat observation, and we will get back to you. We always do. So that's another way to contact us. And I wish you the best and stay safe. You know, everybody's saying it, but stay out there and hang together. Really appreciate everything. And I think we're done.